Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast. And you can visit us on our website, www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. So this week we watched Mother's Instinct, directed by Benoit Delhomme. Here's your synopsis. Housewives Alice and Celine are best friends and neighbors who seem to have it all. However, when a tragic accident shatters the harmony of their lives, guilt, suspicion, and paranoia begin to unravel their sisterly bond. This movie stars Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Anders Danielson Lee, and Josh Charles. So, Dill, what are your thoughts about this movie?
Want my money back? Honestly, this movie was a real slog to watch. There are many times in watching of this movie, I would just get up and then, not really watch it, but I say, okay, I missed like a minute and I go back. But nothing about this picture like really drew me in to actually want to maintain my focus and watch it without taking care of other stuff. Which is really sad, knowing this is a remake of a French film that was done in 2018. And this one was done by, like I said, Benoit Delhomme. He's, done Boy in the Striped Pajamas, Free State of Jones. He's done a lot of excellent work, but I felt like this really, didn't leave me with anything. Like, yeah, which is sad because we have Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain in this project, which are two phenomenal actresses. So
Yeah, this movie was a waste of my time. Like, that's all I thought. I was just like, this is such a drag and just like all over the place and nonsensical. And the director, Benoit, is a cinematographer and he's done cinematography for like incredible movies like Theory of Everything and Lawless, but like the cinematography wasn't even giving anything really, like the music or the score wasn't giving anything. Jessica and Anne tried their best with this one, and Anders, because Anders was in The Worst Woman in the World. I remember I was like, I know you,
yeah,
but you had great actors who were just like the child actors weren't giving me anything. Like the son that died, Max, he was giving me a little something, but like Theo, he was giving me absolutely nothing to work with, and I was like, oh my God, this movie failed on all fronts, baby. Like they they tried, but it wasn't good. It just wasn't good.
yeah. Like I said, Benoit Delhomme, a long, illustrious career as a cinematographer, and this being there, like I guess Oliver Masset de Passe. Hopefully, my French is good enough.
Are you
Was
French?
I'm not French, no. I'm closest to French I have is I have Haitian friends, but um the issue was Oliver. He dropped out due to family issues. He was going to direct this movie just like he directed the original picture as well, but he had a family commitment. He dropped out, which left the cinematographer making their directorial debut. And this is probably a clear-cut way example in the film world. Like just because you're good at one aspect doesn't mean you're good at another one. Like like I said, Benoit is probably one of the best cinematographers in the world. But for as a director making their directorial debut, this was kind of, you know, mid level.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. I feel like I'm all right, let me actually think about how I feel about this because honestly, when your eyes kind of glaze over and you're just like that's kind of
Yeah,
how I was watching the movie. So
yeah,
let me try to be structural because that's what the show is. We're going to talk about the stuff.
yeah,
So I felt like the story of it was just really ridiculous. Not the like losing your son and the grief that comes with that. Like that made sense to me.
yeah,
And even like the constrained roles that women were placed in the 1960s and how that can make you absolutely lose your mind. Like, got it. That also makes sense to me. But like it's it's the paranoia that Jessica Chastain's character had and the fact that like she was right, but nobody believed her. That was annoying. Although probably accurate. Like if she was institutionalized, her word is going to be very flimsy, like to
Yeah.
people in this setting. So that made sense. It was just annoying. And then Anne Hathaway just going around murdering people, no, never got caught.
Never
Like
got caught.
it's one of those things where like the series of crimes, this is the same thing how I felt when I watched Catch Me If You Can, where it's
Yeah.
like, how do you commit all these crimes and you don't get caught? Maybe because it's like the 50s and 60s. I guess the police and law enforcement was not, sufficient or sophisticated enough to deal with these things. I'm not sure. But you're like, you're not like an evil genius. You are a housewife. So like how are you figuring this stuff out? No internet. Like how are you what? Be like, oh, I'll just do this to everyone, like in this household, just absolutely like murder everyone except this child. Like, I didn't like that because it just became a little bit ridiculous. Like, after a
Yeah.
while, it was just like, come on, for real? Like, we know that you're guilty, right? Like, Ben knew it from the jump. But like, for her to plot all this out and not no one's eyebrows are right, it's just so unbelievable to me. And then also, I didn't understand like the genesis of why she was so angry because she was mad that like Jessica Chastain didn't save the kid, but also she busted into your house and tried to run up and get him. She tried to do something. Like it's not like she just stood by in her bushes and was like, "Well, guess that kid's gonna take a tumble over and that's just it for him." Like she actually did try to help. So like why are you so angry?
Yeah.
Made no
And
sense to me.
yeah, and my thing also is at least, they kind of gloss over how it could be possible, but it doesn't feel strong enough for me. Like
Mm.
going back to, Cheddar when we were in class, Oakwood, and life doesn't make sense, but movies have to. That was the one thing he'd always rated when he had writing projects. And so when I watched this, okay, cool. They illustrated in the beginning, kind of, okay, she has the issue because, she can't have any more children. That makes sense. They with Jessica Chastain's character, they go in the beginning, like the first 5 minutes of the movie, we found out, oh, she used to be a journalist working in a newspaper. So her investigative mind for these things already there. So okay, that makes sense with her character direction in this project, requesting the autopsy, connecting the dots, realize, oh, based on these parameters, it must be Celine. And then the only thing they mention over with Anne Hathaway's character goes, oh, her husband is works at a pharmacy. Like, okay, cool. It makes her access to the medicine, those like chloroform and stuff makes sense, and placebos make sense. But she wouldn't know what, placebos actually do. She wouldn't really know. Like they really show how she was able to thought out her mastermind caper. Like, yes, she's a housewife. How does a housewife in the 1950s know if I pull off the top of she pulled off the top of a water heater and I guess carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, whatever, whichever one, filled up the house and killed everybody. Like, how did she? What in her background as a character was revealed to us to show she was knowledgeable in all these things to put this massive caper together? You know?
Yeah. Great question. Wish they would have answered that in the movie. Like, it just didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Like, her killing or like trying to take out the other family member to me didn't make sense either. Like, her like systematically trying to kill like the members of Jessica Chastain's family. It didn't make sense because again, I don't understand why she was so mad to begin with. But let's just say I did believe it, or I understood why she was
yeah,
holding this grudge. How did you pull this off? Like exactly, it's like, and the thing about her husband being a pharmacist only came in halfway through the movie. So
yeah,
in the introduction, we know that Jessica Chastain's a journalist or a former journalist. The husband is in accounting or whatever. this other guy, we don't know what he does, and we don't know what Anne Hathaway does. So like maybe in the beginning stages when people were where we were just getting like shots of them like dancing around aimlessly, like maybe we could have sprinkled in some exposition there. Like I mean, I don't know. But I'm just spitballing here. Like I feel like we wasted time in those 30 minutes. Like we got that they're close.
Yeah.
Cool. But like the information that we would need to believe the story as the twist happens and things start to unravel, like we should have been planting those seeds earlier. So and maybe they tried to, but it didn't work for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And it's like, and they also show, they even show in the beginning of the movie, like that Jessica Stan's character of what was it, Alice, is actually
Mm,
really smart because she's then going toe to toe in the 1950s with their husbands discussing like politics and like, oh, they're complaining about JFK being young, and he's like, well, Roosevelt did X, Y, and Z at that same age, you know. Proving I'm just as smart as you and I know more than you. Like with Anne Hathaway just there just giggling like the typical 1950s Stepford Wife, just going, ha 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 ha, you guys are so witty. Like there's nothing about her character that would make me, say, okay, she's smart enough to pull this off. And then I'm also looking at the cop. I understand it's a movie, but I'm looking at the cops in the 1950s. Like no one thought it's a weird confluence of events. Their two best friends, her son dies, check. Oh, the grandmother dies right next door, check. Her husband they commit suicide, and a day later, when her friends bring her in to live with them, while because she doesn't want to be alone, the husband and the wife die, but mysteriously somehow the boy survives in the house filling up with carbon monoxide. Like they all like, oh, this horrific, mysterious event where the whole house dies except for the one child. No one questioned it. Like there's like no one, no cop like interviewed anybody in the neighborhood. It's like, oh yeah, they were close friends, but for the last couple of days after the son died, they've been arguing constantly. Like no one, and she just gets away scot-free at the end. Like, yeah,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense because like I can sort of believe that the law enforcement wouldn't be as on it, maybe in a suburban town where there probably isn't like that much crime over there. So maybe they didn't know, like, I don't know what to look out for. But also, like, I don't believe that either. Like, I believe that they had to have some type of inkling. Because even in Catch Me If You Can, I mean, yeah, Tom Hanks was on to Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio. So,
yeah,
like, so, like, it's not like nobody was on the trail. It's just that it took a long time to figure it out. Like, and
yeah,
I just feel like in this, we should have been on the trail because it's too many coincidences that are
yeah,
happening. And the fact that that's another thing that really threw me off was that the fact that bad thing after bad thing after bad thing happened in such quick succession. Like you couldn't even process like one of the issues until like long enough, and
yeah,
then someone else dies. And it's just
yeah,
like it's just too much. It's too much. It's too convoluted. That's what I'm saying. Like it's just too much going on, not enough explanation. And then she just gets away with it at the end. And I'm like, this is stupid.
yeah,
Like I really wonder like what the actual French version of this is and
yeah,
also like what the
exactly.
book was because it's based on a book. So I want to know what they changed and I also want to see the actual French version of this because I feel like it has to be better than whatever this was.
Yeah, this one was very, what's the phrase, milk toast in it. Yeah, like, and that's like, and again, like with this kind, like with Jessica Chastain, Anne Hathaway, amazing actresses, and like when I saw the images of Anne Hathaway, I was like, oh, she fits that aesthetic, the 1950s aesthetic, like those. That's her. Like in my head, I think her like, oh, she fits those fashion cues. This project is probably right up her lane, you know, and like the ball was dropped in its entirety, and it's supposed to
Yeah.
be dramatic and hold you. This movie doesn't hold you. You're just waiting for it to get to the end.
Yes.
So like you're it's like it's not even it's like drama for drama's sake, but the drama doesn't mean anything. It's like watching reality TV, like, oh, these two people get in a fight no matter what. Like there was nothing there to keep me invested in finishing out this, what, 2 hour or hour and like 40-minute picture, you know?
Yeah, the pacing really is bad. That's
Yeah.
another thing. It's just like the pacing's really, it just every scene kind of drags, and there are pauses that are in certain moments that just don't need to be in there.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're just kind of wasting time trying to get to the next thing. But also, after a while, the next thing is just going to be another murder. So it's like you're not even like anticipating anything to be good because you already kind of know where this is heading.
Yeah.
Like it's just, yeah, it's just not good. And listen, I love Anne Hathaway, but the last couple choices that she's been making in terms of films, I don't really know what's going on over there. And blink twice if you need help. Like it's not giving.
Yeah.
And Jessica Chastain, like, I can understand why she might want to do something like this, but maybe, I don't know, because actors are very strange. Like, when we watch certain movies and we're like, what? Why would anyone sign up to do this? And then the actors talk about why they wanted to be a part of it, and they're like riding so hard for the films.
Yeah.
It's very strange because it's like, did you see the same thing that I did, or did you see like a different version of it? And maybe like they thought it would come together, you
Mhm.
know, but it didn't come together.
Like on paper, it makes sense. It's 1950s, friendship. One friend loses her son, and it starts down this path of a murder spree. Conceptually, there's something there, but the delivery doesn't hit the mark.
Yeah.
So,
I think they were like, ooh, complex female characters. And that's all that they thought about. And then they were just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
yeah,
But my thing is like, yeah, we love a complex female character, but like the story still has to, you know, be in shape and
yeah,
make sense. Like, we can't just have complex female characters for the sake of it. Like, oh, these girls are in the 1960s, but they're outspoken and they're like murdering people. Isn't that so against type? Like, isn't that so, subversive? And it's like, not really. So, I mean, listen, we had Bonnie and Clyde like back in the day. Like, that was
yeah,
before this era. Like, women have been doing some stuff. So, like, it's not like a novel idea that they would, like, housewives would be like smart and capable of doing stuff. It's just that, like, in this sense, one of the characters, Alice, made sense, like how she was piecing this together, and the other character of Celine didn't.
yeah.
So maybe we should have worked on that instead of just focusing on the fact that they were complex female characters. Like,
And and my thing is usually time periods in movies aid as a storytelling element because if you set a movie during certain time periods, you're restricted to story elements. Like if this like I feel like this movie wasn't really aided or serviced by the time period because the time period doesn't really matter in this picture other than, costuming. Like
mm,
they could have set this movie like now and the story, none of the key story elements would have changed at all. You know, at least if they
yeah,
said it now, you'd probably see Anne Hathaway Googling, chloroform, what it does and stuff like that, or that kind of stuff. But yeah,
yeah, I thought that what was going to happen was that like she would lose her son, Celine would lose her son. And then because of the time period and because she was expected to be a housewife and to be looking out for the children and stuff, like she would get all the blame. She would feel really depressed about it. And it would like ruin her marriage, ruin her relationships with other people. She would see the little boy next door with her best friend and feel like awful. Like I thought that was where they could have like led this film into, and how like being a housewife and being under those conditions in that time period is so restrictive and like damaging to people and will make you lose your mind to the
yeah,
point where like maybe you would want to like kidnap this other kid.
yeah,
But I feel like they didn't really explore that because you're not really spending that much time with Celine in terms of like it's not through her perspective, it's through Alice's perspective.
yeah,
So you're not even really getting that. And Alice kind of she is restricted by her marriage, but like she's also doing her thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just it was just a mess. And I was just like, wow, that is like an hour and 30 I'll never get back.
Yeah, like visually it was kind of as well.
That's what I'm saying. There wasn't anything to pick it up.
So yeah, it's not a good project. It is what it is. I mean, it's out.
It's out.
People are
It
gonna
is
watch
out.
it. It's out. We watched it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's not a good movie.
No.
No. So so moving on to below average, movie viewing experience. Comic-Con is currently going on, which is, the precipice of the comic book slash entertainment industry. If you're into comic books, movies, TV shows, action figures, even video games to some point. But the biggest breaking news coming out of Comic-Con has been Robert Downey Jr. is back in the MCU, along with the Russo brothers. Looks like Kevin Feige and the powers that be at Disney have decided to shell out massive amounts of dollars and back the dump truck up to the Russos and Robert Downey Jr.'s houses in Hollywood. The big shocker is Robert Downey Jr. will be playing Doom. Um, I'm gonna let you go first on your reaction to this news story.
I don't understand what's happening. Can someone explain to me what this? Yeah. I just feel like I there were like rumblings that Robert would come back. It seemed like he very much wanted to come back to Marvel, and I was like, okay, fine. Like I don't care, even though like your send-off was pretty powerful and pretty like stayed, but because we're doing the whole multiverse thing, like I guess it's totally possible for you to come back. But to come back as a completely different character when you originated such an iconic character, like those Iron Man movies really kicked this whole thing off. So what?
Yeah.
I no, I, I,
Yeah, I'm disappointed in this. It seems like MCU has realized there's a case of diminishing returns with their properties and projects going on based on various reasons, whether it's certain audiences are not buying into diversity, where which I don't believe, because if you're showcasing diversity but the stories are good, like as much as people decried Black Panther 2 with the loss of Chadwick Boseman not being involved with it, that movie still did well as well. You know, uh, like I thought, the Marvels, even though some aspects of the movie were weak, I thought the experimentation, like the Marvels movie, is very genre bending. It embraces a lot of different genres in that movie. Creativity. You had, I guess, Ant-Man Quantumania was probably one of the worst ones. The issues they had with She-Hulk, where a lot of probably white men were not interested in watching She-Hulk, that kind of stuff. The hype is there with the return of Daredevil and some of the Netflix properties potentially coming back. I felt like they Robert Downey had mentioned, yeah, Hulk, he's willing to come back. And then they said, oh, we're going to scramble because we've missed the mark repeatedly with Fantastic Four as an IP. Um, so they said, you know what? We're doing this whole big multiverse thing. You know what? Let's just turn Doctor Doom into a Tony Stark-esque variant, or Tony Stark is a variant of, Doctor Doom, which I don't agree with, because every other villain they've shown have has been allowed to be their own villain. Like Doctor Doom is one of the oldest characters and the probably predominantly one of the main big bads of Marvel Universe. He's a character with 60 years of history, and to reduce him to just becoming just reduce him to be, oh, Doctor Doom is now a Tony Stark variant reduces the impact that that character does have. And going forward now, like Marvel now is releasing a TVA comic book, meaning that there's a high level of comic book synergy where the comic books have to match what's happening in the cinematic and their TV landscape. Knowing that going forward, there's going to be something that's going to happen in Marvel, which now rewrites Doctor Doom into being a Tony Stark variant, and I am not looking forward to that. Like Doctor Doom was probably one of my top 10, honestly, number one comic book villains of all time. Just of how like he's a perfect blend of arrogance and swagger and vanity and intelligence. Like he's like all the good aspects of other heroes mixed with all the aspects of all the bad guys. But he'll work for either side. Like he's on his own. He doesn't really play a side. He's like whatever works to my advantage is the side I'm going to play. And he's such a complex character. And I'm not really looking forward to how this goes. Knowing especially how Robert Downey Jr. kind of does perform some characters. There's a hint of him in them at some point. I'm yeah, not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah, I feel like because the whole Jonathan Majors thing imploded on them,
Hmm.
they had to like figure something else out quickly because they didn't want to like keep pushing back the release dates and they wanted to get this thing started. Fantastic Four, like that had already that's already cast and it's already happening. So like I just don't know. See, I didn't know that he was coming back as a variant of the character he already played. In my head, when I heard the news, I was like, he's coming back as a completely different character. And I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
oh. So I also think that it's a bad idea. I think that most people who found out the news thought it was a bad idea. It seemed like the people in the crowd when Robert Downey Jr. showed up, like freaked out because it's Robert Downey Jr. But I wonder if they went back to their hotels in San Diego and just thought, wait a minute, something here is not right.
yeah,
Because the feedback I've been seeing has not been positive about this because it's like, just hire another actor. Like, I don't
yeah,
know. Like you could have totally did that. And it didn't even have to be like an unknown. It could have been a very well-known, seasoned actor. It seems like they've Marvel is like uniquely positioned to like get Oscar winners and all these great actors to be a part of their universe. Like just pick one of them. Like I'm sure someone would have come along.
yeah. Especially considering we know Blade has like lost directors left and right and center. They just spent X amount of dollars with the Falcon, Captain America, Brave New World reshoots.
Mhm.
Um, before that they announced Armor Wars, which is supposed to feature Don Cheadle and uh Ironheart. They announced that
Mhm.
was going to be a movie. They've announced like four other movies before this. Like, and now those movies have just disappeared from the slate. After saying, "Oh yeah, we're probably going to go back to reduce releasing 1 to 2 movies a year." Like those previous movies that were already in pre-production have just disappeared from the slate. And now
Mm.
we skip forward and we're going to do they've announced like it's this movie is Avengers Doomsday, which is replacing Kang Empire. And that
Mm.
Avengers Doomsday is supposed to come out 2020 2026. And
Mm.
then the second movie is going to come out 2027. So
Mm.
what happened to the other movies that were supposed to come out 2025? Nothing,
Yeah.
nothing from that. So
So Thunderbolts, I think that's coming out at some
yeah,
point. I don't know when that's coming out, but it'll be out.
yeah,
I don't know when, but like so you have that, you have the Brave New World situation. It's just like, I don't know. Apparently Deadpool might have been like the shot in the arm to like get people interested again. I haven't seen that. I'm gonna see this weekend, but like after we do that, after they have this, I guess, uh, what's it called again? A restart, like a fresh start to like revamp this entire franchise. I don't know how, I don't know if anyone's gonna still be as excited. I mean, I am excited for the Fantastic Four movie because I like all the actors. So
yeah,
like I would like to see that done well because in the past it's been interesting. Like there were some good moments, there were some bad moments, but I just wanted to see it be done well.
yeah,
And I love everyone who's involved. So like I'm excited for that, but I don't know. The Avengers culmination movies are have always been like one of the most like anticipated things that everyone who cares about this stuff. looks forward to. So I don't know, that news of Robert Downey Jr. just doing this character in both of the films isn't inspiring excitement in me right now.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see what happens, but yeah, the decision making over there is always a little,
And honestly, they could have brought Robert Downey Jr. back to the Marvel franchise in Armor Wars, because there are times in the comic books where Tony Stark has like gone like comatose or whatever, and he has an AI. And like one of the most recent runs is it's like the suit is like fighting, and but when the suit takes off the helmet, it's like a hologram of Tony Stark face. So they could have had like Don Cheadle, Skrull Cheadle or Real Cheadle, whichever one they want to use for Rhodey or War Machine, and then you have Ironheart in there. Like Robert Downey Jr. could just be there as a fully invested AI aiding both of them. And he could still be there, and just because he doesn't really have to be on set, he's gonna just do motion capture and facial capture. They don't have to pay him as much because he could probably knock out all his stuff in like a week, and they can give him a flat rate, and they couldn't film, and they could have him for two movies or as many movies as Ironheart or War Machine are going to be in on. They will still be seen on screen in AI form. They could bring him back that way as well. But it is what it is. They got to make their
yeah.
money somehow. So,
It is what
but
it is. What
yeah,
are you gonna
yeah.
do?
So
Yeah. Our next news story is about the Olympics. Basically, that's all I'm seeing. I tried to watch some of the opening ceremony. It was pouring rain. I would not have been out there, but it is exciting, I guess, a little bit after the pandemic to just see like a massive sporting event with a whole bunch of different sports and stuff. Like they have breakdancing now, that is a part of it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like skateboarding. So, they're trying. So I
yes,
was like, okay.
they're trying.
Celine Dion performed, and she has gone through like a lot of health issues, but she sang beautifully. She looked incredible. I was so happy to see her. Lady Gaga performed, but the biggest thing for me was seeing Simone Biles like absolutely slaughter, absolutely kill, devour, eat everything up, leaving no crumbs. Like she was incredible. And like so many celebrities came out to see her specifically. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what happens when you're the best. That's what happens when you're that girl. Like, it was great.
You got like Snoop Dogg is like involved in like he had the torch
Yeah.
running in Paris, and he's taking pictures with the fencing team and like chilling.
And
See a
Steven
picture of
Spielberg,
him.
like,
Yeah, you got Flavor Flav like being a massive water polo fan, and is now an ambassador for the team. Like you got now also I think you got amazing stories from other countries like South Sudan. Their run. The women Nigerian women's team winning as well. My main thing, I'm waiting for track and field stuff because when it comes to the Olympics, I'm in the Summer Olympics. I'm all Team Jamaica over here.
yeah.
Basketball part, I'm gonna probably root for Team USA, but I'm
Yes.
waiting for the track and field stuff because that week of track and field stuff that's when I'm gonna get my key tweeting off. So I'm looking forward to that. Shelly Ann Fraser Price's last Olympics. I want to see Shakari how she
Yeah.
does. I'm looking forward to those events. So, but yeah.
Yeah, exciting.
So in big election, this is still, the election is somehow become synonymous with pop culture as well.
It is.
With all the craziness that's gone on the last couple of years and the big announcement last week. So on Netflix CEO and co-founder and executive, like he has like all the lead titles for Netflix. Reed Hastings has gone to bat as one of the first major corporate heads and
Mm.
says he's backing Kamala Harris with a $7 million donation, which is really big, especially after, Elon Musk kind of said the same thing, like, oh, he's going to donate to Agent Orange's campaign millions of dollars a month. And then he reneged on that, which is Elon's main purview, because he didn't want to actually buy Twitter until they said, no, you said you want to buy it, we're going to make you buy it. He kind of backs out of stuff
Hmm.
when he realizes he's made a stupid mistake. But yeah, like this is a big shift, like a major corporate entity as big as Netflix saying we're gonna fully back a candidate going forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that these like certain people are being very public about it. Like Melinda Gates donated massively, talked about, and she's like people donate, people, corporations always donate to candidates, but like to hear about it, for it to be like in the news is kind of interesting. Maybe that's happened before, but I don't remember seeing like big corporations being like, we are supporting, we're throwing our money behind this one individual, this candidate. So yeah, I'm loving everything that's happening. Do you know about the Kamala is brat memes or
I'm not onto the whole brat memes at all. All I've been keeping track of, like, I love
good?
now that we've gone, like, I hated the rhetoric of the Obama years of when we go low, they go high, when they go low, we go high, because that other side of the fence really goes low as hell. And I'm
Mm,
deep down a really petty and spiteful person.
okay.
So I'm glad now that we've embraced just calling these people weird and crazy.
Yeah, I love
You
that.
know,
That's where we
so
need to be.
yeah, like call them out on their bullshit. Like for years we've known they will call people who don't view things the way they do as snowflakes. But then we tell them, but you're the one being sensitive about this. How am I the soft one? Their brain kind of just pops and fizzles. So I'm glad we're finally calling, like, not we, because I think the population as a whole has been calling them out, but like media people would push, and other politicians have realized, oh, these niggas is just weird. Like
Yeah.
just
I love
like
that. I love that it's weird. I love we're saying weird. That's our catchphrase. They're
yeah,
weird.
yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Because it is very petty, like, and I just loved it.
yeah.
I'm eating it up. Anyway, so that's it for the news. Let's talk about what we've been watching. Dale.
I spent the last couple days watching two YouTube documentaries. One is kind of about, like, we've talked as well at this about why acting seems or feels different. In cinema, they started from like the 1950s, of that era of Hollywood, to almost to now, comparing how the shift in acting has gone to where people are teaching like method acting, different theories and stuff like that, and how also it has coincided with the style of acting is because technology's advanced. Like before, a lot of the acting was very loud and theatrical because you really didn't shoot outside. You shot everything indoors on a set. And whereas now that technology has gotten smaller to the point where you can shoot everything outside, people in a natural environment, the acting has taken on that view as well. Like if you go watch, I don't know, we watched Casablanca, and how Humphrey Bogart, his acting was kind of, it was still a bit naturalistic, but it was almost a louder presence in his delivery. Whereas now, because we're shooting either outdoors, natural lighting to some point, or indoors and natural lighting, air quotes around the natural lighting point, actors are kind of a little bit more subdued and a little bit more realistic with their performances. That was kind of a nice juxtaposition how technology and different acting theories have gone about. He even talked about method actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, and to a negative standpoint on uh what's Succession. He played
Oh, Jeremy Strong.
Jeremy Strong. They compared especially that with Jeremy Strong and Brian Cox, whereas Brian Cox, he didn't really like Jeremy Strong that much because he's a classically trained actor, whereas Jeremy Strong isn't. So even that standpoint of how they're different schools of acting, and you kind of see the more classically trained actors being more of the British actors, whereas more Americans are more modern, more method, that kind of juxtaposition. And I also did watch an emotional analysis of Iron Claw, which is funny. I knew the Iron Claw was very emotion driven, but being the wrestling fan, I kind of glanced over that and focused on the more wrestling side. But the guy I watched broke it down to the movie's honestly uh, a breakdown of the effects of toxic masculinity and the effects of, yes, there are two key women in the movie, and how their involvement in their interaction with the lead character's life are uh are how, when we stand by the wayside and not engage in correcting these behaviors, what happens to us as characters as well, and how we help those around them. So that was, and I think I was aware of it watching it, and I didn't really pay attention to it, but so it was nice to get that refresher again. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I watched, well, I watched a YouTube. It was 3 hours long. So FD Signifier did a video about the Drake Kendrick beef, but it's called I'm What the Culture Feeling, but it's 3 hours, so it's extremely in depth where he goes through like the history of hip hop, the history of Drake's rise and success, the history of Kendrick's rise and success, how like these two men interact with each other, how in the scope of hip hop, like one person is like supposed to be supreme over everyone else. Um, and that it was supposed to be Drake, but then Kendrick came out of nowhere and it became him. And then he went away for a little bit and Drake kind of usurped that space. And then Kendrick came back. And then 2 years later, we had this beef. So it was very good, very interesting. Um, and I think that like, I don't know, it's been a minute since all that stuff resolved, but looking back on it, I'm just like, I do kind of feel bad for Drake just
Mhm.
because like he didn't really stand a chance, but but also like I think what FD was saying and what makes sense to me is that like their mentalities about like what they're doing is very different. Um, so they were never really gonna, come together. And then he added a little piece in there about J. Cole, which I appreciated because I do love J. Cole. I feel like he's always left out the conversation, but he's a great artist. So yeah. Um, and just like masculinity and like what brat beefs were like are supposed to do and how they got taken to another level in this. But like, yeah, it was really interesting and just like a good like study of African American history. Like I know it's not exactly tied to that, but it is. Like hip hop is
Yeah.
very like related to that. So that was great. It was long, but it was really good. And then before that I watched Dirty Pop, which is a documentary about Lou Pearlman who discovered the Backstreet Boys and
Mm,
NSYNC. I thought they were going to focus on his alleged predatory
mm,
behavior, but they didn't. They focused on his money troubles. And I don't know, they mentioned the predator stuff, but then they kind of glossed over because and I don't know, it's either one because maybe they didn't have like enough basis to like actually make a documentary around that, which I don't know if that's true, or two, like he didn't do anything, so they didn't feel like mentioning it. I don't know. From what I heard, he definitely did some stuff, and I thought that was going to be the focus of this, and it really wasn't, and that was kind of disappointing because I'm like, I would like to know, but I think there is an Aaron Carter or Nick Carter documentary on HBO, so maybe I need to just watch that and see what happens,
yeah.
because but also NSYNC Backstreet Boys bops like actual great songs. Like the pop scene back in the day, so good. Like absolutely amazing. So that was great. Not the documentary, but just listening to the music again. That was really great. And then lastly, I watched a documentary called Don't Stop about Fleetwood Mac because I was listening to this podcast where these girls talk about like, I don't know, random stuff, but they were talking about Fleetwood Mac. And then I was also watching these YouTubers watch Daisy Joan and the Six, which is like based on Fleetwood Mac. It's
Hmm.
just like a fictionalized version of them. So I was like, oh, let me actually go and see like what they were doing. Like I know Landslide, but I didn't really know many of their songs. And then I was like, oh wait, I've heard a lot of these songs. I just didn't know it was them.
You've had to have heard the Rumors album at least once.
No, I knew about Rumors, but I'm thinking I heard the Chain.
Yeah.
I've heard that song. Again, I didn't know it was their song.
Okay.
I heard the song. I just didn't know. Like the beginning of The Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks is in the Bootylicious song. And I was like, wait, what? I've heard this before. And they sampled her. And I was like, oh my God, this is the Kelly. Can you handle this? Michelle. Like I was like, that's that. That's incredible. Like great. Whoever came up with that idea, smart. But Fleetwood Mac is so fascinating to me. Like, I don't think there's ever been a band where people have been so outwardly messy and that mess has turned into success. Like, these people were getting high every single day, writing songs about each other, sleeping with each other, singing the songs in front of each other, being like, this song is about you.
Hmm.
What? And then, like, years later, when they're getting interviewed about this stuff, Stevie Nicks is still pissed. Like, she's still upset about the drama that happened in 1977. It's like, girlie, you need to move on. Like, why are you still mad? But yeah, like, it was just a hot mess expressed. Like, I don't think that an artist could like be or a group could ever do something like that today where you can just be like so insane. And like the reason why like they were writing songs and singing it in front of each other and nobody was like technically getting hurt is because they were all high and they weren't even like clicked in enough to be like, oh wait a second, are you is that a shot?
Yeah.
Are you taking shots? Like, no, they were all completely gone. Insane. Can't believe it worked. Like that's the thing that shocked me the most was that like everyone was being so openly like messy and crazy, and that it was like the most successful they had ever been because the band had been around for like years and no one like, and it wasn't until Stevie joined the band that it actually took off. So that was a crazy, loved the songs, thought it was great, but like I think that's great. I don't know. It's insane because it's like you guys need to relax, like please get help, but also it was very fascinating.
Like I said about being paid, like, oh, you wrote a song about me and it's on our album. All right, cool. I'm gonna write a song about you. It's gonna be on our album too.
That's exactly what
So
happened.
track
Yeah.
one is you talking about me. Track two is my rebuttal. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
track
on and
two.
on and on.
Track two, yeah, I slept with your girl, and what? Fight about it. Okay. Then in track
Wow.
three is another rebuttal, and so on and so forth.
The culture in the 70s can never be replicated. Like the way people were just on one, like insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been watching. Um and also House of the Dragon, obviously. The season finale is tomorrow. I mean, next week. So, oh, so excited about that. Love that show so much. Anyways, that's it from us this week. We hope that you're taking care of yourselves and doing well. Make sure to check out all of our social media. Support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Au revoir.